Hi, everybody. If you found me, it was fate because I didn't prearrange this at all. I just sort of decided at the last minute to go live. So, yeah, I haven't been live since November. It's been a really long time. And Jamie, you must be sitting on your computer. Because, like I said, I didn't announce this at all and just went live for the first time since November. I was trying to decide whether or not to buy Rachel Pollack's The Shining Tribe Tarot. I was looking on Amazon last week for new decks, and I saw that this was going to be released on April 8th. Kind of debated back and forth about it, and I couldn't make up my mind because typically this artwork does not appeal to me at all. On the other hand, I really love and respect Rachel Pollack, and this is a reissue of her classic deck that she created. And I think I bought it more for sort of historic value, actually, and kind of hope that I get to learn to love it. It looks like a little bit of a different system than I'm used to. And I think it might help me learn and grow and add another layer to my experience with tarot. Hey, Deanne. I should never do this, really. I catch everybody off guard when I do this. But a lot of times, hey, early ritual, a lot of times if I set a live video or whatever a long time ahead of time, then when the time comes around to do it, I'm like not up for it, and I figured I would stop doing regular videos and just only go on when I feel passionate about something or I'm in the moment, I'm excited about it. But unfortunately, what that does is a lot of people miss it. Then again, they could always watch it back later. So anyway, I hemmed and hawed and went back and forth on shouldn't I get this deck. I looked at it online. I love the fact that it's new. I feel bad in a way that this deck has come out after Rachel Pollack's passing because she didn't get to enjoy all of our rediscovery or enjoyment of her deck. And hopefully she's looking down from somewhere and knows that we're getting into it now. But I do know that originally this was previously released, and I have seen it before, and I think some changes have been made in terms of tweaking the intensity of the colors on the cards. And originally, when she designed this deck, she wanted to hire an illustrator to illustrate it for her, but she couldn't find anybody to capture just what she wanted to do. And she ended up trying to do it herself. And I am a big proponent of creating your own deck. And there's a sort of a rawness or a crudeness about these images as there is in the deck I created. And let me say, for anybody contemplating making their own deck, it's not so much about whether you have artistic talent as it is about the mental process. And it takes a certain degree of organization to create your deck. I mean, you could do a deck with just, words on it, keywords or phrases or stickers or whatever, stick drawings, And a lot of this does remind me kind of the crudeness, maybe crudeness is the wrong word. It's sort of like if you handed a child a box full of crayons and some cards and said, here's what I want you to draw. It has that kind of feel about it. A little craw, a little, what's the word? Amateur? That's not really the right word. But it's also has a kind of an energy about it that it might have with a child discovering things. And I think when you create your own deck, you have that too. You have to sort of think about the archetypes and what you want to put in them and what you want to leave out. Anyway, we're about 7-8 minutes in. So several of you are here, and I appreciate that. Nobody seems to know I'm here, and that's because I didn't tell anybody. But anyway, like I said, I was watching the other night, Chris of Elemental Cartomancy did a live, and I was watching his channel, and I had mentioned that this had just come out on Amazon, and I wasn't sure about the images because I didn't think I'd ever seen a full walkthrough. And he has the original version. I said, could you show me a couple of cards and a reading? And he did. And then I still went back and forth a couple times on should I, shouldn't I? It's a little pricey for me, and I tried to decide, is it worth the price or not? So I think it was about $46 to $48 or something on Amazon. I thought that's a little bit high for something I don't connect with aesthetically. But then again, it's got a really hefty guidebook in it. And you might pay half or even all that amount just for this guidebook. And if you've read Rachel Pollack's books, you know that's worth it. So like I said, I hemmed and hawed. I haven't bought a deck in a while. I thought if it's Amazon, it'll be here the next day. So I went ahead and I decided to buy it. Do any of you have it yet? Deanne says the book is amazing. Oh, I think she might have the earlier version. So anyway, the package came and the delivery person put it right outside my door, which thrilled me because Amazon usually leaves them down in the lobby by the mailboxes, and I'm on the 4th floor. So they carried it up the stairs. They didn't knock on my door or ring my bell, but I noticed when I checked my email, there was a photo. It was sitting by my door. So I ran open the door, and there it was in my Amazon envelope, and it was heavy. This feels like 5 pounds or something, this box. It's a really huge, thick box. Looks to be, well, I'm going to pull a average tarot card so you can see. That's a average tarot card. So this is a big box. Of course, that's mostly to accommodate the book. And it's a really heavy knocker of a box. And I've never seen a box quite like this. I'm a little worried about the wear and tear because it's a hinged box and it's heavy. So it looks to me like maybe the first thing to go over time is going to be this seam on the fold because it is heavy and it's just kind of hanging there. Inside, there's a yellow ribbon and a pull-out guidebook. I guess I should show you the outside of the box. So you see that cover and the edge, and then the other edge, and the top, and the bottom, and the back. And I don't want to read you too much stuff and spoil it for you, but I just did want to give you my impressions and sort of do a little bit of a walkthrough so you can see the images. The book now that's a nice chunky thick book. And it is, let me check for you, 200 and looks like 248, 49, 250 pages. And the cover has a really nice feel to it. It's kind of matte, but has like a lamination to it. Not a glossy lamination, a matte one, so it feels really nice. Oh, that's the cover. And it's just a little spot illustration on the back. The inside feels like it's not matte pages exactly. Again, it's not glossy either. It's that kind of in between where it's like coated pages, like a nice, slick, professional book. But it's comfortable. And I'm going to read you some of the headings. It's full color. And you get like sort of full color images of the cards. Some of them are blown up. Some of them are, well, I think all of them are larger than the cards actually appear. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about, did somebody else pop in? A little bit about what's in the book. So the table of contents, you have an editor's note, a preface. Oh, I like this actually. At the beginning, you have praise for the Shining Tribe Tarot, and you have little quotes from a number of people that we know, other tarot creators that we know and love and respect. So there's a quote from Mary Greer, Caitlin and John Matthews, Teresa Reed, Benabel Wen, Sasha Graham, Camellia Elias, and a few other people that I've not heard of. But I mean, that's kind of impressive that all these people came out to, praise this book. So anyway, back to the table of contents. Editor's note, preface, introduction, the cards, the structure of Shining Tribe, the extra cards, major arcana, minor arcana. The minors are divided into trees, rivers, birds, stones, and vision cards. And then you have readings, ways to activate a tarot card, and then appendices with Appendix 1 name changes, Appendix 2 reversals, Appendix 3 start your own Shining Tribe, and a glossary. So it's really comprehensive. It's nice that there's that contents in the front, so I don't have to leaf through here and miss anything. I'm not going to read stuff from the book for you, I don't think, because it is copyrighted. I don't want to get too much into that. But it looks to be a really good book. Each card has a sort of a poem, and then a meaning, then divinatory meanings, and reversed. Okay, let me look at the cards. Now, there's a yellow ribbon with an insert, that you can lift the cards out of this little recess here. This is really, one to take up real estate on your shelf. It's a big, heavy box. And I don't usually like that, but for Rachel, I'll make an exception. I'll find a shelf spot just for her. Now, my deck, these come in a little plastic, thing around the center. And I don't know if this is going to be an indication of all of the decks, but you can see, I think, It looks like mine was divided into 2 sections and there's a slight bowing in the middle. I don't know if that's fixable or if I care, but I just thought I'd let you know that that's a possibility when you get it. It is a thick deck. I don't know how thick the cards are, but it's pretty thick. They are regular tarot size. Actually, they're a little bit bigger, only slightly bigger than standard size. So that's about, I'd say 1/4 of an inch taller and wider than a standard tarot deck. So anyway, you slip off the plastic belt, and then you've got your cards. Now, I do know from Chris showing the original cards on his channel that the backs have changed, and this is the back design. I think I liked the design better on the earlier version, but this is okay. The cards themselves are, again, they're like matte, but there's sort of a minimal lamination on them. They're not shiny, but I don't know if you can see there's a little bit of a, not exactly a gloss, but you might see a little bit of a sheen or a glare there. It's not as much of a sheen as, say, I don't know, a Llewellyn or a US Games or Lo Scarabeo kind of deck. It's a little bit thicker cardstock, which a lot will appreciate. I actually prefer thinner cards, but I'm going to have to read back the comments when we get a chance here. Jamie says, that's why I decided to watch to see if it hits differently now. She was amazing, but the art has never resonated. But let's see, shall we? Yeah, and I did take the band off earlier and just glanced through a few cards, and I was excited to see it. I felt like online these weren't cards for me, but somehow I'm getting excited by them in person. I think it's one of those decks that feels slightly different in person than when you see it on screen. Did I see? Oh, someone's mentioning Thomas. Is Early Ritual Thomas? I was thinking of a different Thomas. Okay. All right. All right. Keep going here. I hope you're all still here. So they do have borders. This is the Fool. And I do get the sense in this one that it brings in elements from different cultures. A lot of it looks like Native American tribal culture designs. And I'm not sure how you all feel about that. I don't know if she actually pulled elements from those designs and whether you consider that cultural appropriation or not. I don't usually get into the politics of that. So I'm going to let you decide. Is like Superior smooth? Then no. It's thicker than that. It's stiffer than that. And Superior Smooth feels a little slicker than this. I mean, this is slick. The cards don't stick or clump. They glide really nice. I don't know how to describe the card stock. It's in the vein almost of the kind of stock I don't like that everybody else loves these days, which is that kind of matte stock. But it's not like a dry matte, it has a kind of it has a slipperiness. So it's not dry matte, almost feels a little bit more like it drags a bit. This one glides really nice, but it doesn't have the same sheen as a regular, I would say, a Superior Smooth. So, okay. So anyway, let's go through these cards. So we have the Fool, and this looks like somebody just sort of like taking flight. I'm hoping you can see these well enough. I didn't do an overhead camera, which would be sharper, but you'll get an idea of what each of the cards are. And if you decide to buy from Amazon, you'll have it tomorrow or the next day. It's, I forgot to mention, it's put out by Wiser Books, in case that's of interest to anybody. Here's the Magician. Here's the High Priestess. Deanne, you can tell me if if it looks like the colors are a little bit more saturated than the earlier version that you have. And I believe the earlier version is a different kind of cardstock, but I could be wrong. Because I don't think this kind of stock was popular when the first edition came out. So, oh, sorry, that was the Empress. The Empress. The Emperor. This has a real kind of alien feel to it. And a lot of these do look to me like sort of ancient alien illustrations on rock walls or cave walls in the American Southwest. And then some of them look like Aboriginal drawings, and some look like Native American. This one, oh, number 5. Wait a minute, is there 2 number 5? Oh, no. There's no Hierophant. Number 5 has been renamed Tradition, which if you don't like the Hierophant for that archetype, you might enjoy or prefer Tradition. Hey, Beth. Then number 6 is the Lovers. Number 7 is the Chariot. How do you guys feel about these borders? Do you think you'd like them better if it were borderless? There is a lot of white space energy in there. Number 8 is Strength. There's the size of a border, unless there's more white in the image. Number 9 is the Hermit. I'm not sure how I feel about this color palette, but I really do like the bright vividness of the colors. In that sense, it almost feels like a very spring deck to me, if you know what I mean. It's like you look at a garden in spring and it's like just an array of colors that pop in the sun. And this has that very kind of optimistic feel to it, which I like. Number 10, here's another one renamed. Instead of the Wheel of Fortune, this is called the Spiral of Fortune. And I think I was going to say, one of the things about the art design of this that I had a little trouble relating to is this almost reminded me in a way of the Thoth Tarot. And I had some issues with embracing the art style in that deck. And I feel similarly about this. The systems have nothing to do with one another. But Lady Frida Harris's illustrations and Rachel's illustrations are so kind of abstract and different for me that they're just not quite what I usually I'm drawn to, and it's kind of an adjustment for me. Number 11 is justice. So Deanne says, I was just going to say the borders on the earlier version is the same amount style, but it's sort of goldenrod at the top and fades into beige and then almost white. Oh, that's interesting. Early Ritual says, I do like the borders on the cards with more colors. The border feels weird. It keeps jumping on me on a white background card. Yeah. Beth says, I do like the white borders, but not sure why exactly. Okay. Number 12 is the Hanged Woman. That's a nice change. "13 is Death. Does anybody else feel like me that these do feel somewhat like cards drawn by a child's hand? This is Temperance. It's sort of like if your child came home and said, Mommy, look what I drew. And there's a sort of a vivid excitement in that sort of sense of creation of what comes from a child's imagination. And I'm not saying Rachel Pollack is childish, not at all. I'm sure a lot of thought went into each and every element of these cards. Number 16 is the Tower. Kind of like this. I can't tell if these are trees or ladders on the side. Looks kind of circusy, high wire or something. I'm not really spending a lot. These are first viewings, so I don't know what to expect, and I'm not really giving them the attention they deserve to really like be pulled into the card. So I'm going to have to go back and spend a lot of time with them. But like I said, when I finally decided to hit the buy button, it was almost against my better judgment. It was kind of like, these are not really my thing. Am I going to even use these? But I think it's going to be like if I took an online lesson in tarot to like learn more. You know, it's more than it could be a deck that grows on me and I use a lot. I sense more that it's not, but that I'm going to learn a lot from introducing it to myself. The Moon. Jamie wants the book with it. Yeah, I think in the end, it's probably worth the book alone for the price. And I think you can get the book alone prior to this, probably the earlier version of the book. I don't know if there's a difference between the content in the book, but yeah, I hadn't bought this in the past because it seemed like most of the places listing it were not including the cards. It was just the book because the earlier one is out of print. Here's the Sun card. Beth says, Robin, I could see using this deck for a self-study or study in shamanism. Yeah, absolutely. If I see this at the right price, I may pick this up. Very not my typical preference, but there are elements here I like. Well, that's another thing. I'm not pushing Amazon, but the prices change all the time. They go up, they go down. There are sales. I didn't look at the Wiser website, what it goes for there. I think the list price is $50. And I thought that was a little bit high. But usually when you get something like this, you don't get a book this comprehensive or a book written by Rachel Pollack. So for me, it was like a big part of the decision was when I saw it, I thought, gee, this isn't my art style, but shouldn't I? If I set a price for myself, what would I pay? Maybe 27, and 27 to 45, 48. I thought that was a jump. It really made me think. Usually price doesn't bother me so much, but it's something to consider. I thought, is a deck going to be worth $48 to me? And I thought, well, I'm not finding anything else I'm drawn to these days. And Early Ritual says, yeah, it's 50 on Wiser. So that's list price. But I thought about what it would be without the book. And they're not selling it without the book. It comes in a package. And so I thought, well, if I'm willing to pay 27 or more, for the deck, then it's not a great jump to 45 for this comprehensive book. Anyway, number 20 instead of Judgment is called Awakening. Usually I don't like it when they rename cards. So that's another thing I'm going to have to get used to. But then again, I don't see myself actually doing readings for other people with this deck. Jamie says 42 on Amazon if you round up. Oh, well, then it changed since I went on there, because I think it was 48 first, and then I think I paid 45 for it. So maybe they're bringing the price down. 42 seems like a good price for this. 21, which would be The World, is The World Shining Woman. Okay, and then we go into the first suit, which seems to be well, it's trees, which is, I believe, the wand corresponded to the wand suit. So here we have the Ace of Trees. You see a little embryo there underground. The Two of Trees. This does almost feel like a deck created by a shaman. Number 3, Three of Trees. Also, another thing it makes me think of is voodoo art. So it's like this sort of Native American, Aboriginal voodoo. It's almost where the symbolism of it is more important than the style of the art, because it's sort of like historic tradition of storytelling, or carving an image on a rock, or just enough to illustrate, to communicate the story. Here's the 4. The labels, I think, are important. They're small, they're unobtrusive, there's no copyright on the cards. It's clean type. It's small, but it's important. I mean, if I looked at this, I don't think I'd ordinarily think of 4 of Wands. Need a little bit of help. And I'm also getting better. Here's the 5. I'm getting better with pip decks myself, as long as there's a label on it. The artwork doesn't have to lead me down the path physically. I can find layers in the art that will work for me. because I'm at a stage now where if I just had white cards with a label on it, I could read tarot, because I'm so ingrained with the I don't know if ingrained's the right word. I'm so used to the Rider-Waite-Smith imagery that when I look at a label now, that pops into my head immediately and translates for me. So if I don't see something in the card artwork that I can translate, I already popped the translation into my head. So in that regard, I think it's workable. Might not be as workable for a newcomer. This is really pretty, the Six of Trees. These look to me sort of like woven blankets or textile crafts. If you knit or crochet or weave, has that kind of feel to it. Well, Deanne can advise us on the symbolism. She says it's really great. There's a lot there because she has the earlier version of the deck. Oh, Early Ritual says, I was thinking didgeridoos. Am I right in thinking that Early Ritual is Tom? So I'll try to memorize that. Names go through my head like a sieve, but I'll try to remember. And okay. This one I love. This is Trees, and it's a little bit like a Rorschach print, but it also reminds me of a rattlesnake's tail. See what I mean there about the segmentation? And down here, sort of like the Rorschach. Now, a lot of people are not going to like it because of the abstraction, that they need more literal illustration style. But for me, decks are all about stylization. I like an artist's style more than I like their artistic chops, shall we say. I like it to have a personality to it. Here we have the Eight of Trees. Interesting. Can't tell if those are legs or if they're riding the sky on a tree. Number 9. Sorry, folks, if I'm going too fast or not fast enough. Tom said, did I get the Leonora Carrington deck? I did. And that's another one. That's funny you should say that, because I go through these phases. A year ago during winter, I went through my color phase. I wanted things with really intense, bright colors. All of a sudden, right now, I seem to be going through this phase of cards that are really very different and in some ways not even the kind of artwork that appeals to me, but that have a really strong kind of like historic or ritual value or something. Like Rachel Pollack and Leonora Carrington are like both women I really revere and aspire to. And for me, this is almost like buying a dictionary or buying a reference book. You know, it's different than just buying a regular deck for me. This is like almost a textbook or schooling or something. Here's the 10. Now this is interesting at the bottom. It looks like the solar system. For the 10 of Trees or Wands. Okay, now we're at the courts, and the courts names change, and this is tricky. This is the trickiest part for me. I could adjust very easily to the 4 suits that I mentioned, because Wands is trees, then Cups is rivers. That makes sense. The wands, usually RWS wands, have leaves growing on them. That translates perfectly for me. Rivers is cups, water, rivers, water in cups. That makes sense to me. Uh, the swords are birds. Okay. Swords is the air sign, birds. I get that. And then earth is stones. Stones come from the earth or they lay on the surface of the earth. That makes sense to me. And there are a few cards at the end that are like additional cards. We'll get there if you're patient with me. So anyway, now the courts are a little trickier. Some people don't like the gender differentiation in courts, or designation of male, female, binary, and also this sort of hierarchy. This is different for this deck. So the alternate to the page is place, the place of trees. That one might be the hardest for me to adjust to. I have a hard time translating pages into places, other than if you think about a page as a starting place of the courts, that you move from page up through to king. So if you're in your starting position of that transition or sequence, then that could be place, kind of like home base or something. Second, we have a knower of trees. And knower that's like a mind thing to me, which kind of, no, I don't know if that works for me with the knight. The knight feels more to me like an action card, and I don't always think of knowing as an action, although I guess it's more like exploring or considering. Knowing kind of feels like you already are fully aware. So I'm not sure how I feel about knowing as the knight. I'm going to have to memorize that and learn it. Deanne says, I think of a place to be explored like a page would do, having a whole place to wander about. Okay. Gift of trees. So the gift is the correspondent to the queen. And I can see that from, in as much as queens and empresses have that gift quality to them that are sort of creative dissemination, or, that sort of feminine, in-depth, peaceful kind of consideration and thought and birthing ideas or whatever, the creative aspect of giving, sharing. I can see that, but I think it's still going to take me a little while to translate that in my head. And for the kings, we have speakers, speaker of trees. I can relate the speaker to, whoever's in charge. Our political figures are the ones that give speeches, particularly the diplomats and the ones at the top of the heap. They're always talking at us. But I'm not sure I like that word for this kind of depiction. So yeah, the court cards are going to be a little bit of an adjustment for me, I think. And that, I would say, of everything I've seen here so far, that the court cards were the biggest red flag for me, because usually if I have cards that are relabeled, I tend to like sort of shove those away and not buy them or collect them. We'll see. Okay, we're now going into cups, which are rivers. So we have the ace of rivers. Does anybody else see some familiarity or similarity between these and other decks that are a little bit off the beaten path? I don't know if I'm thinking of somebody like, oh shoot, what's her name? the woman that does textile craft. I want to say Margaret Peterson, but that's not the one I mean. Bear with me a second. Barbara Walker. Except they're not. Barbara Walker is a little more illustrative, but it has a definite style to it. Maybe I'm not even thinking of Barbara Walker. But there are a few decks that have a more, I don't know what you want to call it, diagrammatic style or ritualistic style. Beth says the one by Ellen Lorenzi Prince, the Crone Tarot. See, I'm not familiar with that one, but I'm going to go have a look afterwards. 2 of Rivers. And in some ways, this, like I said, this kind of does remind me of the Thoth too, in terms of the imagery, and like you see the image and there's symbolism in the sort of geometric arrangement and the colors and stuff, but it's not something that's like readily intuitive or readable. You know what I mean? 3 of Rivers. And a lot of the sort of medieval, what's the word I'm thinking? The science of changing stuff into stuff. What's the word I'm looking for? Not metaphysical, not archetypal. What's the word I'm looking for? You know, when you change lead into gold, alchemical. They sort of remind me of like medieval alchemical illustrations, or technical tarot of the crone. Okay. Tom says there's definitely some Thothness, but I think that may be coming from the ritualism presented in the cards. Yeah, Tom, alchemical. They almost feel like alchemical diagrams or illustrations, you know, like a secret language that, you know, only certain people are permitted to know. I do love that. I love that sort of historical idea in cards. In fact, my current favorite deck is the Manuscript of Initiation, which is culled from old medieval manuscript illustrations. And this is the 4, by the way. And I love the fact that it's not readily readable in the imagery. It feels like secret language that it wasn't for everybody to be able to access easily. And I really love that. I love that, you know, it's like I feel like I love being part of a special secret private group, you know, only certain people are in the know. There's something really fun and intriguing about that. Not in an elitist way, but in a way where the interest is just shared among like-minded people that, you know, maybe don't want it to be mass marketized or so popularized that everybody's in the know. It's kind of like, I used to do that with albums too. I'd buy record albums by an artist nobody knows, and I'd become totally obsessed with them. They're like my favorite artist, you know, and nobody else knows them but me. And then if I meet 2 or 3 other people that also love them, isn't that fantastic, you know? Beth says connection, not exclusion. Secret language in a way, yeah. Here we have the 5 of Rivers. And the 6 of Rivers. And this one looks like the shape of a lot of sort of primitive goddesses, sculptural representations of primitive goddesses, like say the Venus of Willendorf, and just these sort of like sort of pear shapes or fruit shapes, or there's not much detail, but there's a hint of a being there. Rivers, number 7. I'm noticing in a lot of these rivers cards that there's a lot of vertical lines or wavy lines and a lot of blue there, and it feels like almost like shots from above of bodies of water flowing, 8 of rivers. I also love these figures that have horns or antennae. Again, they sort of remind me of like Kachina dolls, or depictions of mythological figures, or the Ancient Aliens channel says, oh, those are aliens, they're extraterrestrials. Well, whatever they are, I don't want to minimize the ability of creative people to use their imaginations to create an image. So I won't assume that these are devils or aliens, but 9 of rivers. Oh, this is very cups. I don't see Jamie. Did she have to run out on me? I think she might have left. She's a woman of few words, so she might still be here. 10 of rivers. Then we have the place of rivers. You can't say these cards aren't colorful. They don't lack on color. Here's the knower of rivers. The gift of rivers. Deanne, are you still there? Did you have trouble adjusting to the renaming of the courts? I'm curious. The speaker of rivers. Or anybody else out there that has the earlier version of the deck. Did you have trouble adjusting to the renaming of the courts? Now we're into the correspondent of the sword suit, which are birds. So we have the ace of birds, the 2 of birds, the 3 of birds, the 4. I'll try to go a little faster because I think I'm losing my audience. 5 of birds. See, this one feels to me almost like Egyptian, like linear depictions on the edges of walls in pyramids and tombs. 6 of birds. Thomas likes this suit the best, I think, or he's most interested in it. The 7 of birds. The 8 of birds. The 9. Beth asks, the larger guidebook probably explains where Pollack got her inspiration. No, probably. Maybe I'll check one out after we're done. Like I said, I just opened the box, so I haven't read it. I only looked at the chapter headings. That's the 10 of birds. Be thinking about if you have a card you want me to read the description in the book of. I will sample it. I'm not going to do them all, but just to give you an idea, if you see one, the place of birds. Either from the image you see, or if there's a archetype that you particularly want to know how it is, I can re-show you the card and I'll read it. The knower of birds. Because some of the art looks Native American or indigenous and others look Egyptian, like you said. This one, the gift of birds, it's an ibis, which is very Egyptian, but it's funny. This one reminds me a lot of the depiction. If any of you have the, what's it called? I want to say the circus at the end of the world. That's the wrong name, though. I think you know which deck I mean, though. The carnival at the end of the world? I don't know if you know that deck, but there's like a bird-headed creature in that deck that looks like an ibis. I think it would be interesting to see what the guidebook says about a major and maybe one of the courts, like place of birds. Okay. This is very African, speaker of birds. It's like an African mask. And the stature, the position, the pose is like an African wooden carved sculpture. Ace of Stones. Okay, now we're into the earth sign. And this reminds me of one of those fruit ice popsicles you get from a vendor's cart. Two of Stones. I'm getting more and more a shamanistic vibe from this. And historically, I don't know. I'm not that familiar with shamanism, but I don't often think of women as shamans so much as men, which is curious to me because I think this was intended to be more of a female-oriented deck. I think it's called the Shining Tribe Tarot. I think it might have originally been called the Shining Woman, but I'm not sure about that. This is the Three of Stones. Looks like a kite, maybe. This looks like a temple, the Four of Stones. It almost looks like Stonehenge, and a Stonehenge made out of bacon in the background. And these do look like cave paintings that I've seen, actually. Five of Stones. These sort of monolithic figures without arms or legs. Six of Stones. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Then we have the place of stones, the knower of stones, the gift of stones, and the speaker of stones. I'm going to be really interested to read the introduction in the book to hear why Rachel went in this direction, as opposed to, say, just giving her interpretation of, like an RWS system type deck. This feels like she was really delving into research in shamanic areas or ancient religion or something. Oh, now we have the that was the speakers. That was the last card, but there are five extra cards, and I'm not sure how they work into this. This one is called, these are not numbered cards, so I don't know how they figure into the system, or maybe they are just extras for fun. This is called Portrait of Albert. I think I read somewhere that these 5 cards, each of them relates to a different element of the 4 suits. And then the 5th one, so it's sort of like earth, air, fire, water, and the other one is spirit or ether or something. But I don't know which is which. I mean, I'm guessing Portrait of Albert. This looks to me like it might be the fire element or the wands or trees, because there's a tree in it. Knowledge and life is this one, but yeah, this doesn't really look like rivers to me, so I don't know. The Sphinx in Eden. Saint Teresa. I don't know my saints. And Tiamat. I don't know who or what that is. So there you have all the cards. Now let me look at the guidebook a second. I want to see if okay, there's a preface, but I don't know if she wrote the preface. Looks like maybe she did. This book belongs to a special set of tarot cards based on tribal and prehistoric art from around the world and rooted in the wisdom and tradition of the tarot itself. It grows from an earlier deck called Shining Woman. Okay, name of that deck derived from the card of Shining Woman, itself based on the World card in the traditional tarot. The World card has traditionally shown a nude dancing woman, sometimes with suggestions of a hermaphrodite. She represents the perfected spirit, the person who begins as a fool and travels through varied experiences to discover freedom in union with divine truth. Okay. There's a lot more here. I'm not going to read it all. I just wanted to give you a taste. A myth for the tarot's origins. There are countless stories of the tarot's beginning. Some say it started. Oh, wait. Okay. That's tarot in general, not this deck. All right. So she gives you a little bit about her thoughts or ideas about the history of tarot. That's a nice little essay to have. Introduction. At first glance, this deck may appear very different from the classical tarot or even its many modern offshoots. Gone are the kings and queens. We find knowers and speakers. Let's see. Does Shining Tribe simply break away from tarot tradition to indulge its own private symbol systems? The answer is absolutely not. With all the changes, the Shining Tribe cards are firmly rooted in tarot's history. They owe their structure, their inner messages, and their very existence to the wisdom and the power that have come together in the tarot over the last 500 years. No one really knows the tarot's origins. We do not even know the meaning of the word. Many people try to trace the cards through their name, comparing, say, the tarot to the Hindu Tara, the title of a series of goddesses, or Latin rota, meaning wheel. But in fact, Le Tarot is the French term for an Italian game called tarocchi. There's a tarot river in northern Italy, not far from the origin of the first known decks. So there's a lot of history kind of stuff in here. It's interesting. So does anybody want to suggest a card for me to check out? Beth says goddess. What? In the Mesopotamian religion, Tiamat is the primordial sea goddess, associated with the chaos of creation. Interesting. Steeped in symbolism drawn from culturally diverse systems, including Neolithic, rock art, Native American, African shamanism, Aboriginal art, the Kabbalah, Jungian psych, and the traditional tarot. That's from the wiser description, says Thomas. So does anybody want to have me read, I think you said a major and a court card? If you want to pick one, is there one that you want to know? Excuse me a second. I'm winding up. I've been on an hour and 10 minutes. That's longer than I usually do a walkthrough, but this is a live, so I have a little more interaction here. And I appreciate those of you who did show up, considering I gave you no warning and you're participating. Okay, Thomas, I'm always interested in the moon. All right, let's look for the moon. Before I find the moon, I just want to show you, there's a little thing here on the extra cards. The portrait of Albert is spirit in the major arcana. Albert's the name of my animal guardian, a red fox who revealed himself to me in the workshop I co-led with Johannes Sherman, creator of the Sacred Rune Tarot. So that's, it doesn't really say why that's been included. This version of the deck has 5 extra cards painted some years after the deck's commercial publication. Okay, So this is different from the earlier edition. These are essentially bonus prints. They also can be linked to 5 elements denoting the major arcana and the 4 suits of the minor arcana. They are listed on the following pages in order of appearance. The second one is knowledge and life, which is fire, suit of trees. And the third one is Sphinx in Eden, water, suit of rivers. Then Saint Teresa, air, suit of birds, and Tiamat, earth, suit of stones. Okay, let me find the moon. The moon. Okay, there's the moon card. Can you see it? I could drag it out. I don't know if I can hold the book and the moon card at the same time, but let's see. No, this isn't ideal, but we'll see. The moon, she lets loose her arrows, she unfolds her wings, she speaks to the creatures, she sweetens the evening. If the star is Persephone, the moon belongs to Artemis/Diana, ancient goddess of the moon, the wilderness, and childbirth. The goddess of the hunt, Artemis, like her brother Apollo the sun, was an archer, and so we see the sickle moon as a bow, the stars as the string, and lightning as the arrow drawn across the full moon's face. The arrow about to fly does not signal death, but rather inspiration, for the moon is the realm of imagination as life, as the basic energy of our souls transformed into images, dreams, fantasies. The strange half-light of the moon shows us the unconscious emerging into consciousness. Just as the moon reflects the light of the sun, so the myths of humanity reflect the hidden truths of our deepest nature. The high priestess understood these truths instinctively. In the final trump cards, the secrets of the high priestess emerge into full realization. The rhythm of the last major arcana cards is the rhythm of light. The devil takes us into darkness where we face our own demons. Having done so, we release the lightning of the tower. From the flash of light, we move to the hope of starlight, and then the brighter but reflected light of the moon, and finally the joy of the sun. With awakening, the light of the spirit shines on us until finally in the world shining woman, we discover the light of our own true selves. Below the moon on this card, we see the mountain formation known as Winged Artemis. The wings of the side mountains spread protectively around the central hill, for even though the lunar territory can be dangerous or fearsome, the moon promises peace if we surrender to the experience. The central rock derives from the backbone of what archaeologists call a passage grave to in France. In the center, we find a vulva image, the Stone Age symbol of rebirth. Sorry. I know you can't see all these details Apologies for that. Um, the hooks resemble the Hebrew letter Yod, found on many versions of the moon as a symbol of healing and divine grace in times of trouble. The concentric arcs in the ground are inspired by Australian imagery, but also from carvings on stone of prehistoric graves and stone circles in Ireland and in the Brittany region of France. Some people believe that these arcs trace lunar patterns over time and thus form astronomical markings. The suggestion of the moon's patterns reminds us of the moon's link to menstruation, the tides, and thus the basic rhythms of nature. The moon is in many ways much more complex than the sun, where the sun appears the same every day, changing only its height in the sky and therefore its hours of daylight. The moon shifts form constantly, dying and returning every month. The moon card, too, evokes changeable emotions and state of mind where reality itself seems to shift shape. The spider-like fantasy creature at the bottom of the card resembles the crab or crayfish found on many tarot versions of the moon, especially decks derived from the classic Tarot de Marseille. Its pincer claws suggest the dreams that grab us as we wake from a deep sleep. They also hint at the powerful images of myth, for we might describe myth as a communal dream that seizes hold of a civilization at a very deep level. Many people try to explain dreams and myths. They tell us how myths originate or the physiology of dreams. Books tell us how to control or program our dreams or how to make them work for us. The moon card, we remember that dreams lose their power when we explain them in the solar light of consciousness. The tarot is like this, or rather, the tarot has both a solar and lunar aspect. It makes sense to learn the symbolic meanings and to analyze the way the cards fit together, but we also need to spend time with the pictures without explanation and look at them, let them seep into us and arouse emotions and visions. The moon sometimes frightens us, for it touches something deep and primal. Tarot Kabbalists assign the Hebrew letter Kaf to this card. Kaf means the back of the head and implies the pre-human layers of the brain behind the cerebral cortex. The layers of animals howling at the moon, of strange creatures which crawl halfway out of the waters, then sink back again before daylight. The moon tells us to accept the power and strangeness of our own imagination. Whew. Yeah, I'm not gonna read anymore. This was 2 full pages. Sorry, that was a bit long-winded, but I think there's a lot in there. So I think it's definitely worth studying. I'm just going to say she does give some key words. So the divinatory meanings: mystery, inner journeys, dreams, creative impulse, strange experiences, sometimes fear, even madness or lunacy, female power, especially rhythms of menstruation. And then reversed, I don't use reversals, but she has resisting or denying the moon power of imagination or deep body rhythms. Alternately, a need to move toward solar consciousness and a more rational approach to problems. So there you go. I'm glad I did that at the end, because I find sometimes it can be off-putting if there's a lot of reading. But that's what's in here for the moon card. And the bulk of the book seems to be, the readings for or interpretations of each card. There are a few other sections. Oh, I also meant to mention that there's in the back of the book, there's a place for notes, and there's like above each page, there's a little exercise for if you do a Shining Tribe group activity, that you can meet with other people and do this little exercise and then write notes in the book. So that's interesting. She's also got in the glossary things like caduceus, Aphrodite, vultures, colors, cowrie shells, dream incubation, elements. So, and there's a lot of things in there. It looks like a really helpful glossary, not just for this deck, but for symbolism across many decks. So there we go. I hope you've gotten something out of this. And it's been a long time, as I said, since I've done a live, since November, I think. And I don't usually enjoy them, but back again. I don't know when I'll be back again for a live, but there you go. And thank you for joining me, those who did, and thank you to people who are watching back later. And I never say this, but if you're not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like if you liked it, and the bell for warnings or notices or whatever you call them. So thank you for joining me, and I'm going to let you all go, and have a great day, have a great week, and bye.